Another episode of Bucket List Coach Web Show. Well, hello, this is Cindy, your host of Bucket List Coach Web Show Live. Make sure that you follow me on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. And of course, hit that subscribe button over on YouTube at Bucket List Coach Web Show Live. If you like to comment and you're here on Facebook, please go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. So both platforms marry and we can see your comments. So a little bit about the show, especially for this month. It is National Aviation History Month. So many amazing guests this month. And it's also National Gratitude Month. So we have Thanksgiving tomorrow. Let me know what you're grateful for, not just today, but every single day. So also a little bit about the show. This show is inspired by Anthony Bourdain. He was a chef like myself. I was a chef for 27 years, and then I got into the travel space. And this show is all about marking off your bucket list and making the most of the dash. So the dash is that little dash between from when you're born until you kick the bucket. What are you doing to make a difference, to create a legacy? So I want to do a big plug to National Day Calendar. I'm an ambassador with National Day Calendar. If you go to the link that's going to be here on the chat later on today, you'll get 20% off any National Day Calendar or any kind of swag. You're just going to type in Cindy Lee capitals as the code. And so just 1 second while I play the video. So now we're at the bridge. So tell us all about this.
This is command and control. Up here you've got where the captain would sit, where the gainer would sit. The command staff, the officer of the deck, the junior officer of the deck, the junior officer of the watch. But back here is the control. You've got a young sailor here, about 19 years of age, and he's steering a 70,000-ton warship. And here is the gas and brake.
It shows how that works.
Engine or telegraph. So when they get a command of how fast they go, like say 1/3 speed, 6 knots, well, I figured out on this chart. So I turn the engine order telegraph to 1/3, the RPM that is needed. Those bells go off down on the throttle board in the engine room. So all 4 engine rooms are doing the same thing. So this is your the lee helmsman that controls this. So this ship was in service for 47 years. So all this is the original equipment. From the time that it came out of the yards at Newport News in 1945 till the time that she got decommissioned in 1992.
Oh, thank you.
You got it.
Well, Chappie, welcome to my show.
Well, thank you.
So let me tell my audience all about you. So Paul Ward, known as Chappie, he actually is over there in San Diego at the Midway Museum. He was a chaplain with the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary, and he's a docent at the USS Midway Museum. Let's talk all about your story.
Oh, well, you're talking about a bucket list, and you're talking about the dash. This is one of those kind of things when we first moved down here to San Diego, I got involved with a Midway, but it was a long-time dream. Nan and I had vacationed in San Diego 1974 and always loved the area and thought if ever we would want to live here. And every conference, every vacation that we were in San Diego, there was just this draw. Well, our oldest son, Aaron, moved down here in 2001. So we were making these quick trips because I was pastoring at the time and Nan was working and we'd have to make a quick trip back and forth. 2004, the museum was opened. That brought the Midway from mothballs and opened as a museum there on the Embarcadero. And we would drive past because Aaron worked in the gas lamp area at one of the hotels. And so it would just like drive by and look at that big old boat with all those airplanes on top. Wouldn't it be great, you know? Well, he married a local gal in 2008. 2010, we had our Civil Air Patrol annual conference down at the Marquee, and Aaron was working there. So we kind of sandwiched the conference between some vacation days. And so Aaron and his father-in-law, Bob, and myself, we went on board the Midway in 2010 as a guest. And I just fell in love. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Cindy. When you walk into the Midway, it's just like, the smell of JP5 and just this vastness in the hangar bay. And then to hear the stories, I was so impressed. I went, if ever I want to be a docent on the Midway. Well, a year later, Catherine's born. A couple of years later, Madeline's born. So we got 2 granddaughters, and we're making these quick trips back and forth because we were still working. And as we approached retirement age in 2017, we're going to San Diego. So we moved down here, and I thought I wanted to be a docent, but I found some of these training videos, and I looked at what they were doing and went, oh, that's just above my pay grade. I mean, that's just way too much stuff. So I just kind of put it on the back burner, and then just kind of pushed me and said, you said you want to be a docent. You need to give it a try. I think you can do it. So I called the Midway and got to the volunteer department. And I said, I'd like to become a docent. And they said, well, we have a class starting in January of 2018. A month later, I'm part of the graduating class of 57 and earned my yellow hat, which I'm wearing. Got that in April and became part of other Midway volunteer divisions, like outreach, curatorial, exhibits, guest services. It's just a great place to be. But when I came into that training class for the first time, they had your nameplate on the table, and this is what you were faced with. Here's your docent reference manual, 800 pages.
Wow.
So I'm going, good honk. How am I going to do this? I mean, you just read chapter after chapter after chapter, and it's a 7-week class, 7 hours, and then you've got on-the-job training and then mentoring, and then I do a 4-hour walkthrough with a docent performance assessment member who makes sure that you can tell the story. And that's what a docent is a story guide, and is able to flesh out all the facts and take all these stats and make it a story. So that's what has so been enjoyable, is to read the things, see the things, touch the things, and be able to share it. And so we call it Midway magic,
So I'm going to pop off for a minute. I'm going to put you full screen and tell my audience a day in the life of a docent at the Midway.
Okay, a day in the life of the docent. Most of us arrive between 8:15, 8:30, and we hang around the docent locker until the briefing takes place. And it's just a fun time because you're meeting and you're sharing life and you're sharing experiences with folks from all realms. I mean, we have got aviators, we've got the snipes guys that were in the boiler rooms, we got supply officers, we've got veterans from World War II. Jack Scott is one of our elderly guys. He's in his 90s. Al Hansen, another one of our guys that's in the 90s. They were serving in World War II. You got the Korean vets, the Vietnam vets, even Desert Storm. So you got veterans that have served in all branches. And we have females, we have ladies that are on board that were school teachers, administrators, human resources. So you've got a whole gamut. So we sit around and have some good times until the docent of the watch, the Dow, gets us all, herding the cats, getting us all together, and then begins to distribute our assignments. There's about 25 areas on the ship that you were assigned to as a docent, so that when guests come into that area, you can talk about who was in that space, what they did in that space, the equipment. So hence, you got to know a little bit about everything. And this docent reference manual gives you those kinds of things so you can weave the story. So that takes place right about 9 to 9:15. 9:30, we're walking out of the docent locker and we're heading to our respective workstations. And there we gather what's needed to be able to share the story. If you need the brochures, if you need to make sure that all the things are in place. And if not, you call it down and have, exhibits turn a light on, or, make sure that something's available. But what is so fun is the kinds of people that you meet throughout the day. You've got former Midway sailors, which they're coming back home. And that is such a neat experience because they lived there, and you're able to share their lives and share their stories. So you listen so that in future weeks, you can tell somebody's story who had been there. You've got, of course, the general rank and file that come on board. And sometimes as part of guest services, you see them coming into the environment and they're apprehensive. I mean, it's a big steel ship. And they come across that flight elevator and they're just like, oh, what are we going to experience? And then by the end of the day, when you're at guest services and you're helping them at the exit, to see the appreciation, to see the awesome feelings that they've experienced. And they're just blown away by their time on board. And one of the fun things I get to do is working at the info booth. We have what we call the junior pilot programs, and all the kids earn a set of wings.
Right here.
Yeah, Cindy's got hers. But they earn a set of wings. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt. There's a couple of questions in the hangar bay, on the flight deck, down on the mess, and they answer those questions. And when they return back, we grade them, make sure that you got them, and of course, everybody passes. But then you take those youngsters to the open steam guards on a little podium, and you give them a little ceremony, swear them in as a junior pilot, and let mom or dad pin the wings on them. So just a fun activity that takes place. But you get to do that all day long. And then as a sidebar, when you're not on the watch bill, and this is one of the things I love to do, is bring my friends and family on board. I'm not on the watch bill, so I'm not working. I put on a different hat. I'm going to take this one off because of the shadowing. You've seen my yellow hat. But I wear a VIP hat, and that was in the video because my guests are VIPs, very important persons in my life, because I get to share all the way from the bridge to the brig, from the fantail to the forecastle. It takes, how long were we on board, Cindy?
About 8 hours.
About 9 o'clock. And what time did we leave?
4:30.
So we took quite a bit of time to just go through the areas. And I just love to tell the story about the Midway. That just fascinates me. But, that's when I get to do the personal tours. And that's when it becomes a little bit more fun.
I was inverted.
You were inverted, yes. You got to sit in the F-14 cockpit, didn't you?
I did. And this actually is from the swag shop. So tell everybody about the swag shop.
Well, the swag shop's called the Jet Shop. And the Jet Shop is actually one of the working areas called the Jet Shop when the Midway was in service. And that was where they would take out the engines from the storage area, take them in there, calibrate them, work on them, and then test them on the fantail, bring them back into the hangar bay, put them on the aircraft, put the aircraft on the flight elevator, and send the aircraft up to the flight deck in just a matter of 15 to 20 seconds. So it's a great place. But they have all sorts of items, Midway related and also Top Gun related.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and actually next I have some of my Top Gun Rios, so you'll have to stay tuned for that episode for sure. So tell my audience what your favorite part of the carrier is. You know what my favorite part is?
Oh, my favorite part of the carrier. Where you begin, because you've got, that 4-acre airport that's up on the flight deck. And of course, you've got the island where you can go up 4 flights of Navy ladders, 43 steel steps, and you have a commanding view of San Diego. Well, back in the day, it was just blue water, but you've got a great view. Just to the south of us, you see the Coronado Bridge, and you can even see Mexico from the deck of the Midway. But the primary flight control, the 4-acre airport, that's the control tower where the boss and the mini boss and what we call the tower flowers, they were at. And then the command and control area, the navigation bridge, where the captain and the navigator and the lee helmsman and the helmsman and the pilot house. And of course, in the middle, you got the chart house where the navigator and his quartermasters set the course. That's great. And when you exit and you go into Admiral's Country, where Desert Storm was planned and monitored, that's great. And then you got the hangar bay, of course, where you could see various aircraft. And as I walk into Hangar Bay 1, we have the Battle of Midway exhibit. And that is one of the most premier exhibits in the world, because you've got the Wildcat, the fighter, you got the Dauntless, the dive bomber, the Devastator. That's the only replica in the world. And it was part of the Midway movie in 2019. And of course, a 15-minute movie called, The Voices of Midway.
Wow. Yeah, that really hit my heart. That was an amazing.
Because it's their story. It's based on their letters and their journals and the interviews with the family. So out there in the exhibit, you got the kiosks that talk about the battle and the timeline and all the stats. But to hear the story of those kids, I mean, I've seen that movie probably 225 times, and I cannot stay. When I start the movie, I've got to leave because I know I'm going to get sand in my eyes again. I mean, it just always brings, it gets to you. But, the hangar bay there, the forward loop going up through some of the ready rooms and air ops where the CAG was at, and CIC, Combat Information Center, where the ship was defended. And they were always, a very tense and dark room. And then, of course, the forecastle, the anchor room. That's fun. Then, of course, below deck, you got the city at sea, where 4,500 sailors and officers, aviators, they have their meals in the chapel and the laundry room and the galleys where they have the food cooked in the mess where they ate. Engine room. What's my favorite? Just walking across Bravo 5 to get to work. That's my favorite work. My favorite spot.
Well, I was a chef for 25 years, and the end of my career, actually, I worked on a cruise ship. So tell my audience all about the different galleys and mess halls within this aircraft carrier.
Well, if you can believe it, they had 10 tons a day. 13,000 meals were served. So, and you had about 500 different recipes that they worked through on a cycle so that you didn't have the same meals day in, day out. And so the admiral had his own galley and mess with his own personal chef, the same with the captain. The chief petty officers, they had their own mess and galley, and that was where the chiefs ate. And, nobody ate there except for the chiefs. We don't care who you are. If you were the admiral or the captain, the executive officer, you didn't eat down there unless you were invited. So, that's a special place. And of course, the chiefs ate better because they had the best cooks, and they had they supplemented their meals with some of the best food. The enlisted, they had their two galleys and their two mess areas. The one for the food that mom would serve, the 3 squares. And then, of course, they had the aft galley the forward galley where you would have the hamburgers, hot dogs, and all the fast food. And then, of course, the officers had their clean shirt room, the formal dining where it was set down and served. And then also the dirty shirt room where they came in their working uniform and just hung out and had a good time. Kind of grab and go.
Well, let's do a big plug for your friend who did the presentation the other day about the cat. That was amazing. Let's talk about him for a minute.
Yeah, Doug is one of those. He's a Vietnam veteran, and he's one of the Sunday guys, and just a great guy.
So tell everybody the presentation that he does on Sundays and what plane he flew.
Okay, well, on the flight deck, you have aviators that love to talk about their stories. So you have the cats and traps talk. Cats, the catapult, how planes were launched. And Doug and Brian were sitting there listening to Doug talk about how they hooked the planes up, the guys in the green shirts, and the ordies who loaded the plane with the weapons, and then the white shirts who checked them out, make sure that everything's safe and secure. And the guy on the deck, his hands are up because he's going to push that button once it's all ready to go, and the shooter, the yellow shirt, gives the signal for him to take off. And that's done in, they launch every 45 seconds. It's a 90-second cycle. But, you're launched in 45 seconds, 250 feet off the flight deck in 2 to 3 seconds. So you got the video, Doug?
I still have to edit it. Yeah,
Oh,
I think I have about 35 videos to edit. I have a couple shorts that I've been sharing.
Yeah.
So tell everybody the current carriers that are out there right now.
Oh, the current carriers. Gosh. Well, I forgot to tell you about the Trap Talk. Those are where the planes land. The planes land, and they're landing between 3 wires in the size of a tennis court, 40 feet apart. Yeah. And every plane lands and rolls out 350 feet, same distance.
Wow.
And they use that Fresnel lens to give you that glide slope, and the landing signal officer, he's walking you through, and he's grading every pilot as they land. It's an awesome experience. So the carriers, gosh, I don't have my little thing on hand, but let's see if I can remember them all. They got the Nimitz, the Eisenhower, the Washington, the Reagan, the Stennis, the Vinson.
Wow.
The Gerald Ford, which is the new Ford class, but you've got the Nimitz class carriers, the Lincoln, the Roosevelt. Is this a test of how many carriers?
I'm just seeing if you know your stuff.
I know my stuff. I
know you do.
I think if not, I got to go back through that remedial class and go through that Docent manual again.
So who did we talk to on the ship that was in Normandy? Let's talk about him for a minute.
Oh, Jack Scott.
Jack.
He was on a destroyer escort, the Malloy, and just a delightful guy. His spot, every week you can find him in the engine room, because he was an electrician's mate, but he loves the engine room, and that's his domain. And just a delightful gentleman.
So he's 95. How old is he?
95.
95. Yeah, I'll have to edit that video and put that out as well. So let's talk about Michael over at Top Gun Fans. Over 18,000 fans on Facebook, and we all have an event with him in May. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, I met Michael through Facebook. And of course, you have to be an aviation fan, especially the movie Top Gun. And I saw this Top Gun fan club because every year on the Midway, we have Top Gun movie night. It's a Friday night, Saturday night, and they have 2 inflatable screens, and they show the original movie Top Gun, and everybody comes in their flight suits, and I mean it's a blast. And so we were talking about Top Gun, and I did a little Facebook search, and there's this Top Gun movie fan club.
Wow.
And of course, you've got to answer a couple of questions to know that you are a fan. I mean, there's a couple of loaded questions there. I'm not going to give that away, but you know what I'm talking about, Cindy. You have to know some of the characters. And so, like you said, it's now pushing like 20,000.
Oh, wow.
And Michael is actually in Scotland. He's in the United Kingdom. And this is a worldwide group. And so you're communicating and sharing a love of a movie, and it's an iconic movie. And everybody has their little memes that they pass back and forth. And I think it was in May of last year, May of this year, that they did, 2 days of, segments with people that were involved. And then in September on the 11th, we did about a 6-hour marathon. And coming up in May of 2022, it's going to be local here in San Diego. And Frank Whiteley, who was part of the Top Gun production, he was, Tom Cruise's bodyguard, and I don't want to say babysitter, but, kept him on location and place to place. But they're going to have locations throughout San Diego, of course, that street on Laurel where they, have the Kiss, and you have Charlie's house up in Oceanside, and we're going to go on the Midway, so they can see similar spaces on a carrier, since the Enterprise was used. But they'll be able to go into CIC where like Stinger said, who's up there, and you'll see primary flight control where the Air Boss was at.
Wow.
That's
so
fun
let's do a shout out to Cindy over at Kansas City Barbecue. She's going to be on my show next Monday. Actually, I usually do my show on Wednesdays, but because it's going to be the end of Aviation History Month, I had to squeeze her in at the last minute. So let's talk about that restaurant.
Well, Kansas City Barbecue is probably they celebrate, I think, the 35th anniversary.
Wow.
They've been, they're right down the street from the Midway. They're on Harbor. And it's catty corner from the convention center. And that was the scene where Meg Ryan and Anthony Edwards, Goose, and I forgot her. My brain just went south, but those characters, the jukebox, the piano's still there. Unfortunately, a few years ago there was a fire down at Kansas City Barbecue that destroyed some of the props. It was a kitchen fire and water damage and that type of thing. But the piano's still there, and they've kept the homage, and they were able to regenerate some of the Top Gun memorabilia. So it's just a fun place to hang out. The best barbecue in town.
Oh my God, yes. The brisket is amazing.
The brisket,
and
yes.
the coleslaw, it's not traditional coleslaw. It's with oil vinegar, and it's so good. Oh, wow.
And, of course, the bar's got all the hats from the various ships. And I'm not going to talk about the women's undergarments hanging out from the fan, but, it's a very quaint, it just, they call it the sleazy bar scene, but there's nothing sleazy about it. It's a great neighborhood place.
Definitely. So we have a few more minutes left on the show. I'm actually going later today because we have a lot of really amazing, so many amazing guests today, and I'm going well over the 20 minutes. But tell me your favorite part of the original Top Gun movie.
I love that opening scene because I love airplanes, and I love the carrier, and to see each of those guys doing their jobs. A lot of people don't realize that is a ballet. All those different shirts indicating the jobs that they're doing and how they do it. And Tony Scott's, the cinematography is just wonderful. I mean, the lighting effect, and to see the steam, and you're catching the energy of what's happening on a carrier. So it's a good. I love the opening scene, and of course the music.
Do you have a second favorite?
A second favorite? Believe it or not, it's at the turning point of the movie after Goose dies. Because, you see, first of all, like on the opening scene, that teamwork. But you also see that unfold in Maverick's life, because he's out there. And at the beginning, Anthony Edwards is saying, we, remember that part? We, and he doesn't get that connection until it really, it doesn't impact him until he's lost that we part. So, I mean, to see the formation of his character from being, the Maverick, the Renegade 2, he's now being able to embrace and appreciate what others can contribute to his life.
Let's see if I have my gift here. One of my friends made this for me. It's a mini cutting board. I feel the need for speed. Know it. So before we close out, do you have the schedule for the Top Gun movie that's being held at the museum?
It is usually in the month of October.
Okay. And
they'll always give about 3 to 4 weeks out. It's just a fun event. And we have, of course, our, we call him Midway Maverick, California Tom Cruise, the Maverick lookalike. And Jerome is such a fun guy. He's Canadian, but he looks like the young Tom Cruise.
He does.
And he has a blast. And our guests, our people on board, they just love hanging out with him. And we've got one of our own, staff members that is Viper. But we also have the original Viper, retired Admiral Pete Pettigrew, who was a MiG killer and was a consultant for the movie, and actually had a cameo appearance as being the old man, the Charlie's date. But I love when Pete talks about his experience, because he said, when I was young, I was Viper, and now that I'm older, I'm Diaper. So,
Oh my God.
so the call thing changes. But Pete's just a great guy, and he's a docent aboard the Midway.
Oh, wow. Is he?
Yes.
Oh,
Usually works on Friday.
cool. Well, we hit it 30 minutes, and let's do a plug to the museum. Anybody at the museum that you'd like to thank for today?
Oh, gosh. I mean, the one thing about the museum that I really appreciate is you have paid staff, about 100 of them, and close to 1,000 volunteers.
Wow.
And you really can't tell where one begins and one leaves off. I mean, our CEO and president of the museum, Matt McLaughlin, a retired, Navy admiral, he doesn't show off with the stars. He's just one of us. I mean, it's Mac, and he just sets the tone for what we are. We talk about Midway magic, but we also talk about Midway family. I mean, everybody just works together, and like you saw on the ship, even though we've got the docents wearing the yellow hats and the blue shirts, you've got the red shirts, the safety, you've got the green shirts with the air wing, you've got the light blue shirts at ship's restoration, you got the gray that's curatorial. We wear those colors like we would do on the flight deck for the jobs and tasks that we do, but we work together as a team. And that is what I really love about the Midway. It's a team, it's a family, and it's fun to be there.
Wow. Well, I'm going to do a plug for Amazon. I don't know the name of the vendor right now, but after the show, this outfit that I'm wearing, it actually has Top Gun on there. It has the F-14 right here. So anybody wants to order this and have fun and show your love for Top Gun, and the movie's coming up here in a few months. So definitely head out to Amazon, get your outfit, and get ready for the movie. So anything else? Just tell everybody how they could contact you on Facebook, and then I'll put you in the green room and just hang out for about a minute before I close out. Okay.
I'm on Facebook. And so if you want to become a friend, look for Paul Ward and call sign Chappie. And I love sharing about coffee, my family, and the Midway. Yeah, those are the two big things. Well, the three big things that we have going on my Facebook page.
Well, there you go. I'm going to pop you in the room and just hang tight for 1 minute. Thank you, Chappie. Connect with Chappie on Facebook. I'm going to be posting his link here shortly. And if you go to subscribe on YouTube, you're going to comment. You're going to share either on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'll gift you a 5-night hotel stay. Mexico, Greece, Bali, let me know where you want to go, and I will hook that up. You're going to pay the taxes on the hotel, and I cover the hotel. So definitely check out 3nightgiveaway.com. And next on the show, I have David Parsons and David Baranek. They were RIOs, which is radar intercept officers. And one of them actually was a trainer in Top Gun. You could actually see his credits in the movie. So stay tuned here on the next show. Shaka, baby.